sometimes society can be that noisy, you just need to get away from it. At least I do. I must admit, living here, even in the centre of Market Walsall, you're never far from the peace and serenity of the countryside. In fact, you can almost see it down there. No more than 200-300 yards from home, here at the gateway to the countryside, so to speak. But this gateway is this rather Halloween looking hedge. The webbing that represents the spider's webs of Halloween in this instance is made by hundreds and hundreds of caterpillars. These are the caterpillars of the spindle ermine. It's a species that have featured before just outside Edwinstowe. Those webs haven't appeared. I think the whole hedge was sprayed a couple of years ago, but we have them here. This is the closest I've ever seen them to home. In their early infancy, these webs, and they will devour every ounce of spindle. The spindle will regrow again later in the year, so no harm or no lasting harm is done. But there are caterpillars of the spindle ermine moth here by the hundreds. Only a relatively short number of years ago, less than 10 years if I remember right, this grassland used to be cut. It's right at the side of the River Meaden, part of the River Meaden's floodplain. It has flooded on a couple of occasions in the last several decades. But since the council became more wildlife and biodiversity friendly, they've cut back on the cutting regime, so to speak, and it's only the side of the path that runs where the two seats are on the right hand side of the screen by the river that is cut. The rest is only cut once a year and late on in the year, so all this fabulous cow parsley is allowed to flourish and grow. It's one of the densest areas of cow parsley that I've seen, and it attracts the butterflies and the insects. I'm hoping to find two-spot ladybird on here, because I thought two-spot ladybird was struggling this year in terms of numbers, but I have found it in certain areas. It was in the middle of Ilkeston, of all places, the other day. There were several there, and I have turned it up on blackthorn recently. It would be nice to find it on here, because previous experience suggests that they do like umbellifers such as this milk parsley. The smell here is absolutely beautiful. Well, I have found several two-spot ladybirds, and they've not been on the umbellifers, the cow parsley, but they're favouring the nettles. I love ladybirds. We all love ladybirds. If you don't, there's something wrong with you, in my opinion. But two-spot ladybirds, very much a sort of childhood ladybird. We used to catch these and put them in jam jars, keep them for a day or so, and then release. Smashing little things. And they did do something of a disappearing act in the last 10 years or so, really. They became quite hard to find. But The secret is search out those umbellifers and riverside nettles near your local waterways, and you've got a good chance of finding one. Well, here's a two-spot ladybird that's not fared so well as the one that we've just seen, and judging by the web you can see that this has succumbed to one of the local spiders, and it's quite an attractive spider, and it's near the top of its web as I speak. And here's the spider that's made a meal of our two-spot ladybird. This is Larinioides cornutus. It's a common all-weaver of grassy size, and especially areas at the side of rivers and often lakes and ponds. It's a very attractive species. Don't want to muck around too much because she will do a disappearing act, but there you can see how beautifully marked she is on the abdomen. A two-spot ladybird represents a good meal for this lady. Of all the local views we have in the area, this view of the footbridge over the River Meaden at the bottom of Stonebridge is probably my favourite. I love this particular viewpoint, especially this time of year. But one thing is unusual about this year. Virtually all of the trees and bushes that you can see in this viewpoint are hawthorn. A couple of years ago this place was as white as snow with hawthorn blossom. There has been hawthorn blossom, and indeed there still is, but it's incredibly patchy. But you look at those bushes you can see there, and then look at these at the side of me. This time, a couple of years ago, all of the hawthorns that you've just seen in that last shot were like this one. And the one just at the side of the bridge here is the same as this. It's absolutely full of hawthorn blossom, or May blossom as we often call it. Maybe for the amount of blossom that the other hawthorns here produced a couple of years ago, and then the subsequent heavy cropping of hawthorn berries, maybe that's all took it out to the plant, and the plants are now having something of a rest. They all produced varying degrees of blossom, those in that last shot, but not like this, and not like a couple of years ago. Almost seems as if blossom and heavy production of blossom and fruit really does take it out of our trees and shrubs. The place where I live is so lucky to have this site on its doorstep. It's a terrific site, and there are few sites like this on limestone in Nottinghamshire anyway. We're extra lucky to have this. Some really rare fauna and flora here. The emphasis is given to the limestone loving flora that is on this site. I've recorded here for years and turned up a number of species, nothing particularly specialist. Orchid beetle is probably one of the best invertebrates we have here. But having this so close to home is truly wonderful. However, Warsop is growing, unfortunately, and not 30 or 40 yards to my left are the latest bunch of houses that have gone onto what was once farmland. It means that Hills and Holes here is now even closer to Warsop than it used to be. Even the beautiful, mellow, fluty song of the blackbird can't drown out the noise of the playing that has just gone over. This used to be such a quiet place in terms of man-made noises, but it isn't anymore. And you can see just how close the building work has come to this place. hopefully this site's protected status means just that, and that no more building work can encroach on it, or even on it. You never know nowadays. And it's home to a decent range of butterflies. Dingy skipper is relatively new here. The place could hold much more. It's a terrific little site of limestone grassland. I don't do this enough. In fact, I don't do it at all for some reason. There's always the tendency that if you live anywhere, no matter how beautiful it is, you feel that you have to go further afield in order to feel the benefits of countryside, which is really stupid when you have such fabulous countryside on your doorstep, at least in my instance. There's nothing or little more soothing than the sound of running water. Water lapping over the stones. It's only a shallow river. It's a beautiful river, and it still seems, unusually in the UK nowadays, a relatively clean river. There are some algae growths on the stones, but I would go so far as to say that the plant growth in the river median here, and indeed further along its length, isn't what it was 10 years ago. And that's something which is happening all over with the UK's rivers. Not just small rivers and streams, but the larger rivers like the River Trent, River Wye. It seems that nowhere is safe from the effects and byproducts of man. It's becoming very warm. Can't grumble about that after a wet and cool winter. You long for days like this during the depths of winter, when it finally warms up and everything comes alive, and there's scenes like this. I'm taking 5 minutes in the shade to look out at the warmth and the beauty of the countryside, the cow parsley filled meadows here at Hills and Hollows, or Hills and Holes. I have to keep both sides of Warsop happy. So many people just walk past this, maybe glance at it and carry on. You need to take time out of your lives to look at things like this. Just 5 minutes, that's all it takes. You'll be miles the better for it, I can assure you of that. It's hard to imagine that we're so close to the town centre of Market Warsop. It's not a big town centre, but it's a busy town centre. There's lots of people in Warsop, and yet I've passed about 4 or 5 on my walk so far. I'm following the river round ahead of me, and it will eventually open up onto what's known as the Cars, which is an area of amenity grassland with football pitches on, but The bankside there, particularly on one side, has been given over to nature, and that does attract a wide range of invertebrates. But it's just hard to imagine, if you mentally edit out the background noise that you may hear of the traffic occasionally, you would think that you're miles away from anywhere in the British countryside, not within a couple of 100 yards of a town centre. How lucky are we? Well, we're back on the edge of civilization again. As you can tell, it's getting rather noisy. People are enjoying the River Mead on this beautiful sunny day. My recommendation would be that they don't swallow the water. I've seen the effects of that, but the beautiful place this is. We've had a walk from home. Within 5-10 minutes I was in the peace and quiet of the Warsaw countryside, a walk up by the river, enjoying the sights and sounds and smells, especially of the cow parsley, which, as you can see, we're rather fond of here. The smell is absolutely beautiful, and for me now, it's the smell of a bottle of lager that is reaching my nose, despite the fact that it's got a cap on it and it's still in my fridge at home. The walk back will be a quick one.